Hi, guys. Today we're going to be talking about borderline personality, hoovering, from the perspective of the boyfriend of somebody with borderline or ex boyfriend, whatever you want to say. Um, I've dated like two or three borderline women, so I have a lot of experience with these dynamics. I'm not a doctor or anything, so I can't like diagnose my ex girlfriends or anything, but I know a lot of the symptoms, and so a lot of those red flags have come up, and you only need to meet like five of the symptoms of borderline to actually be diagnosed with borderline. So I'm kind of in a way jumping the gun and kind of just assuming that some of these people have had borderline. Like I know my ex-girlfriend has never been actually diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, even though it's almost blatantly clear she has it. She either has narcissism, personality disorder, or borderline, which I believe is the same cluster B personalities. But anyway, this is kind of from the perspective of the boyfriend. Um, how do I or ex-boyfriend? How do I see hoovering? It's just an attempt to get you back once they see that you've kind of faded out of the picture. It's being like the partner of someone with borderline can be really tricky and difficult because it's like Dutch door action. They come around, you as the codependent boyfriend, you're automatically programmed to kind of love this person. So you kind of just like right out of the bag that you want to love them, care about them. Um, but when you start pushing those love buttons, those emotional buttons to a borderline can cause that, pushing away behaviors. I know a girl I dated a couple years back. She was a really nice girl from out of state. She would tell me, I'm doing push pull with you. She'd say, I'm pushing on you and I'm pushing and pulling on you. And she would say, it's really not fair. That would be an example of a borderline behavior. Again, she wasn't diagnosed with borderline. So do you see, but most likely was borderline. So do you see how a lot of these women are running around town undiagnosed borderline? But you take people like me, I have 120 college credits. I've done a lot of studying about borderline. My degree is in mental health. So I've done a lot of studying and stuff like that. And I've also dated several girls that were, in my opinion, borderline, weren't formally diagnosed with it. But when you're blatantly seeing the love hate cycles, things like that, that are clear borderline manifestations, then you can kind of put two and two together and say this person's most likely borderline. Um, the hoovering stage, like I said, I've personally experienced this. I've been ghosted by a borderline woman and then hit up after 2 years of not seeing her. She went through some sort of breakup with her boyfriend she was with for like, I think she was with the guy for like 2 years, but he was using opiates to manipulate her. He was actually using drugs to keep her in the relationship. That's how she ended up in the relationship with this guy anyway. Um, he had the drugs and she was looking for the drugs. And so it was a match made in heaven, right? So she spent like 2 years with this guy doing drugs after ghosting me for 2 years. The guy that actually loved her completely ghosted me. Um, After she broke up with that dude that she was with, doing drugs with for 2 years, out of the blue, she hits me up with a "You want a Netflix and chill line." I think it was like right around the holidays, so of course I was kind of in the mood to see her anyway, and I missed her. I hadn't seen her for like 2 years. She hit me up with a "You want a Netflix and chill," and she came to my apartment, picked me up, took me somewhere, and by the end of the night, we were having sex. That's a perfect example of a Hoover cycle of borderline. They do just about anything to pull you back in, including the use of sex. Um, Basically, they come to term. They switch from those phases, in their mind, that black and white thinking, to thinking you're all bad, to then something can switch to back to you're all good again. Now they want to get you back, or they want to be back in your life. Or when they finally realize, geez, I pushed everybody away, now I'm alone, maybe I should start reaching out to people again. So it's kind of an attempt after they realize they've lost you and they've completely pushed you away, a lot of times for no reason. One of my subscribers, she says there's always a reason, but to the boyfriend, it seems like no reason because one, the girl doesn't talk about it. She doesn't talk about why she broke up with you. So the boyfriend's being left with geez, you left my apartment. You didn't say a word about what you were upset about, and I haven't seen you for 2 years. So that's what you're going to see in a borderline is they're just going to ghost you. They're literally just going to leave your house. They're not going to talk about it. They're not going to talk about why they broke up. They're not going to talk about what the reasons were. So that's why I say a lot of times it feels like no reason. Like for me, I haven't had a car for a few years, so that was probably one of the reason why she didn't want to be with me. Her borderline anxieties, probably thinking, "Geez, if I stay with Steve, I got to drive him around everywhere. I got to drive him to work, or he's going to ask me for a ride to work, or picked up from work." So because borderline girls are so anxious, even just the fact that I didn't have a car in her eyes may have made me an undateable guy for a relationship because she's thinking, Jesus Christ, it's 10 p.m. He's going to call me and ask me for a ride home from work. And with the anxiety and the fact that sometimes borderline girls like to be lazy, just me not having a car could have been a no go for being in my life long term. So what does she do? She comes into my life this winter for 3 weeks, and then I had to kick her service animals out of here under threat of eviction. My landlord actually said she's going to evict me on a last warning if I didn't get rid of these dogs. As soon as I kicked her dogs out, the girl that I love moved right out after 3 weeks of being here. Hadn't seen her for like 2 years before that. So do you see how it's like periods of 2 years I'm not seeing her? This most recent time, she was homeless in her car. She was like sleeping in her car in the cold and asked to come stay. And of course, I love her. So I was like, sure, come on over and come stay. So of course, I didn't want to turn her away and sleeping in her car, stuff like that. But the Hoover cycle is just a way to get you back. Whatever they got to do to get you back, whether it's, saying certain things or treating you a certain way. Um, the idealization of a person, they say is just linked to getting their own needs met. So if a girl idealizes me, she's thinking, geez, if I idealize Steve, he's more likely to serve me. And I see this a lot at work. Servers I work with that aren't my friends, but will kind of idealize me at work. Why are they probably idealizing me? Probably because they want me to help them more at work. They want me to help them do work they're supposed to do. So that's an example of like the hoovering cycle, like this winter with a girl with a car. Was she hoovering me because she actually loves me or cares about me? Or was she hoovering me because she's freezing in her car and she more or less said, I got to say whatever I got to say to, have a warm place to stay? So the hoovering cycle of the borderline is basically just manipulation to get you back, however they need to do that. And most often the boyfriends think, geez, this person's back to be with me because they love me or they care about me or they care about me as a friend. But most often the borderline girl has manipulative reasons, like for example, she needs a place to stay. So maybe she doesn't love you as much as she says she does. She more or less just wants discounted rent or free rent. Um, not all borderline girls have all these bad behaviors and stuff. Some of them have symptoms that are hard to deal with. Um, Borderline girls can be very nice people. They can be sweet. They can be good listeners. They can be pretty direct in their communication, which is a positive thing. But guys, the hoovering cycle is basically after they've been in the hate cycle or the devaluement cycle. After they've pushed you away completely and now they're alone, and maybe they got no friends at the time and they realize how poorly they treated you and how abusive they were and how badly they treated you, they start feeling guilty about it. And then they want to reach out to you and apologize or reach out to you and tell you how much they love you. And like I said, oftentimes it's for self-serving reasons. They're just manipulating you to meet their own needs. So setting boundaries can help. That's what another subscriber told me today. You can set boundaries and basically say you're not going to do this cycle anymore. The love-hate cycle can be extremely hard on the boyfriend. It can actually lead to suicide or suicide attempts, suicidal ideation, because during those devaluement periods, they just make the boyfriend feel worthless. It's a mental illness on the borderline side. They don't mean to do it, but they can literally drive a boyfriend to the verge of suicide in the way that the borderline treats them. Um, So a lot of times they're just not conscious of the way they're treating people because they may be in a psychosis induced by stress, things like that. They may not understand what they're saying to you. And then add on co occurring disorders, and then it even gets worse: anxiety, PTSD. So, guys, that's basically what the hoovering stage is just a manipulative attempt to get you back with whatever behaviors they need to do that, most likely for self serving reasons. If you guys like this video, you can subscribe, like this video, share it with a friend. Check out my merch in the description. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Till next video. See you soon. Bye.